New satellite images help us expose Kremlin lies about the atrocities in Bucha. Russia claims Ukrainians have staged video showing bodies in the streets. But take a look. These images are very real and very disturbing. On the left of your screen, that's social media video from Friday and verified by CNN. It shows bodies in the streets. Now look to the right. These are satellite images, show the same bodies and objects on the same street, and the satellite images were taken back on March 18th. That's when Bucha was clearly under firm Russian control. With us to share her insights and expertise, Andrea Kendall-Taylor, a former senior intelligence officer who served as Deputy National Intelligence Officer for Russia. Andrea, grateful for your time today. The Russian denial, saying that this is all a hoax, the Ukrainians are staging it, goes all the way up to the top, including public statements from the foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, saying this is fake, this is the Ukrainians trying to shame Russia. From your expertise, take us inside why this quick, swift, strong propaganda from the Russians.
Well, we know this is definitely part of the Russian playbook, and we saw it in Ukraine in 2014 after the shoot down of the plane over Ukrainian airspace. So this is part of the Kremlin playbook. And I don't want to dwell on what Russia is saying because it's so clearly a bunch of lies. But for me, what this puts a spotlight on, I think, is a troubling trend inside Russia, where we can see an increasingly hawkish and vocal nationalist narrative taking root. We saw some evidence of this last week after the negotiations between Russia and Ukraine and Turkey. After those negotiations, the Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov came out and very vocally criticized the negotiators for being too soft in the negotiations. So we can see this hawkish viewpoint taking hold, and there is a growing nationalist element to it, such that it's clear now that inside Russia, many people are buying into the Kremlin's narrative about denazification. It's getting so extreme that some Russian analysts have even argued that this Nazi element has permeated Ukrainian society such that the killing or the targeting of Ukrainian citizens is justified. So it's really scary stuff. And for Putin, this is going to create, I think, significant problems for him because you now have raised expectations inside Russia for what the Kremlin should be able to deliver. I think this makes it increasingly hard for Putin to climb down to sell some sort of shambolic victory to his domestic Russian public. So again, troubling there, and suggests that, again, this is likely to be a prolonged conflict because Putin is now faced with the pressure to produce results in Ukraine that the Russian military might not be able to produce.
And so Putin may not have any flexibility, even if he wanted it, to negotiate, as you noted. President Zelensky says he has much less maneuverability now because of these atrocities. So you have prolonged conflict and you have the prolonged horrors that we see. Is there anything, does the United States, the NATO allies, have anything in the intelligence basket to break through Putin's control over what the Russian people are being told is happening in Ukraine?
Well, I think that's one of the key challenges now, and there's more effort being put in that direction. Not only has Putin brought down the Iron Curtain in the information space through new laws and legislation. For example, we know that Russian citizens can face up to 15 years in prison for speaking out against the war. But also part of this information bubble is the propaganda that the Kremlin is pushing. That bubble, this language about denazification of the Ukrainian society, this narrative that it is Russia who is at risk, that this is an existential threat to Russians. That kind of propaganda also is extremely difficult to permeate. So now I think the imperative is on the United States and its European allies to find creative ways to try to penetrate that information environment, whether it's using, the vast number of Russians who have left Russia. There's over 200,000 Russians that have left. They all have their own personal networks that they can try to use to get information back to their friends and family. Other creative ways using mobile internet, satellite internet, even some efforts to use shortwave radio to try to break that. But I do think that that is one of the areas where we need more effort and more innovative ideas to try to get through to Russians.
Andrea Kendall-Taylor, grateful for your insights. We'll continue the conversation. NATO foreign ministers meeting. We will see if there are new efforts, not just on the battlefield, but in the information battlefield as well. Thank you so much for your time today. And ahead for us, the United States now pushing for Russia to be suspended from the United Nations Human Rights Council after, of course, those atrocities in Ukraine.